Well, hi, friends. It's Heather here. Welcome to the Heather Frierson Show, a podcast for women who love all things faith, fashion, and fun. Have you ever felt like just when you've got life all figured out, God shakes things up with a new adventure? Well, me too. For over 20 years, I've been serving and equipping women to step boldly into their purpose through speaking, writing, coaching, and my leadership nonprofit, Creative Woman. And through it all, I've really seen how every season shapes us for what's next. That's why I'm so passionate about helping women pivot into purpose, because I believe that your calling isn't a one-time thing, it's a journey. And I also believe that if we're going to do this, we should do it with style. So if you're ready to grow in your faith and get a little coaching along the way with a little dose of faith and fashion, then stick around. You've come to the right place. Well, hey, friends. Welcome to the very first episode of my podcast. I am so glad you're here. This space has been on my heart for such a long time for so many reasons, but I just haven't done it. For a lot of reasons that I'm going to share a little bit in this first episode. And I hope that in this first episode, I'll find that I'm not alone, and you'll get a little glimpse of your own story and maybe some tools as well. So for my first show, I wanted to share something that's really been personal, a little raw, and actually a little uncomfortable for me the past couple of years, which is, like I said, the reason why it's taken me so long to do my own show. Something I've struggled with, despite the fact I've really built a whole ministry around it. And that's that I've been afraid to actually pursue my own dreams for a really long time. But before we jump into such a deep topic, let's have some fun and talk fashion real quick, since this whole podcast is about faith, fashion, and fun. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see my setup back here. And I thought it would be just a little fun to have a little boutique behind me and change it up from time to time and show you fashion and things that are in my boutique. So for our first fashion segment, I, of course, have to share my very first ever design, and hopefully the first of many, the Shelby Dress. Okay, here's the commercial for the Shelby Dress. The Shelby Dress is a midi dress that is the perfect go-to dress for day to night and flattering on all body types, which is with its adjustable straps, easy to care for fabric, and knee-length hemline. You can pair this closet staple with a denim jacket, favorite kimono, or simply wear it as is for a night on the town. The Shelby Dress is easy to pack for travel, wash, and care for, which is why it's the perfect dress for all occasions. Wear it for years to come. But what's really important, now that the commercial is over, is that the Shelby Dress for me is not only a dream come true that I got to pursue a few years ago, but the name Shelby comes from a real woman and friend who walked through the doors at Creative Woman. Her name is, of course, Shelby, and this is what Shelby had to say about the program she walked through at the nonprofit. I came to CW knowing everything about what I wanted to do from a business standpoint, but knowing nothing about faith. I didn't grow up in a faith-based family, so that was an interesting thing to explore and was helpful. I didn't feel pressured and I didn't feel nervous. The girls and women you meet at Creative Woman really helped me understand that it was okay to not have a church or not to know what I was doing, but to come in open-heartedly and just to explore religion in general. My name is Shelby, and I am Creative Woman. That story really gets me every time. And if you are new here, Creative Woman is my leadership ministry nonprofit that I've had the honor of leading for over 14 years. So go check it out at Creative Woman and grab a book while you're there and dive in. We have about 30 books, but this one right here, if you watch it on YouTube, the Dream Launcher Connections, that's one of our newest published books, and it's got a video series and everything that you can find right here on YouTube and all the things. So Speaking of fashion, my set right now, like I said, is ever evolving. And sometimes I'm thinking I might be even in my closet when I do guest interviews. So me and the guest can share what we're wearing and just have some fun with this podcast. I'm going to be diving into some deep things like I talked about in the trailer. But we also want to have some fun because I've said it many times. I don't do anything unless it's fun. So there you have it. All right. Let's talk about my fear. That sounds fun, right? Well, maybe not. But here's my confession that I've kind of always shared or already shared. Fear has really held me back a lot, quite often, actually. And if I'm being honest, it really still tries to keep in. And sometimes, especially in this season I'm in now, it creeps in a lot. I don't think I'm alone in that. I think it's just new for me to finally admit out loud. And doing this podcast with my name instead of a logo, like my nonprofit's logo, is actually really scary for me. For years, I've cheered other women on as they've launched their dreams. I've been their biggest encouragement and their champion. And it's really been the biggest honor of my life, and it still is. And I'll still be cheering you on in this format too, in my own show. But while I was helping so many women move forward in their dreams and building a growing ministry, I was really found myself the last couple of years putting off my own dreams or putting them on hold. And I really finally had to admit that I had a deep rooted fear, and it just kept growing as time went on. I didn't just like admit it one day, and that it was easy for me to do this. The realization really came after the Lord really had to get a hold of my heart and really started showing me how I was being disobedient. That I had been pushing the idea, a way of sharing my own voice with my own name, and it was like I was putting my name on something, and that felt really odd after really being behind a logo for so long. Even launching things like the Shelby Dress, which is actually hanging behind me here, I had a tremendous fear behind it, a fear of creating something alone that might be rejected. I would say often that I was comfortable behind the logo with a team behind me. And yet in the last few years, I felt the Lord really nudging me and really pushing me at times to open my mouth, speak more, write more, and get out from behind the logo, if you will. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of weird saying that because I was speaking. I do speak a lot. You've probably seen me if you've been following me on social media a lot. But it was really with a logo and a team behind me, and it became a safety net that looked noble. That was a big statement there. And some of you might have felt something with that, that you're hiding behind something too that might feel noble. And for me, so many of my friends and team members had heard me say that, but that I was hiding behind or I felt comfortable. But I just kept pushing aside for one reason or another, even though I knew what I was supposed to do. So my confession is really that I've been fearful to stand out on my own without a logo, without people behind me. And I was afraid of standing out too much, fear of falling or failing publicly, fear of thinking that maybe it was too late for me, which oddly enough, I've encouraged women not to even use that excuse. I even had a fear of being too loud, being too much, or causing a disruption of the process, sort of speaking. Just, yeah, a fear of disrupting what was already good. So this past year, I've started to walk through some healing, especially the last few months, to be honest. And I had to heal a lot from self-doubt, healing from believing in lies that I held as truth, and healing from the belief that I had missed it, healing from belief that I was too old, and healing really from putting other dreams before my own. I had to heal from feeling like I had lost my own voice. Now, before I go any further, for those of you that know me and are a part of Creative Woman, we're not going anywhere at all. This is just me acknowledging that God has something for me to do too, in addition to leading an amazing ministry and really realizing too that my soul was kind of screaming the last few years as I cheered others on, that there was more for me to do, something that I've screamed so loud for so many of you, that there's more. God always has more. And this podcast is really just that first step. And one of my biggest dreams is that through me speaking more and using my own platform is that I get to point even more women to the wonderful work the team and I get to do over at Creative Women. It goes hand in hand, really. And that's something that I didn't put together for a long time and really am walking into in this season. So what I found in through this process this past year is that my fears are really rooted in a false belief system that taught me how I needed to be and look and walk and even how to show up a certain way because I was a woman in ministry. And that's that's a hard belief system to overcome. And probably if you're listening to this and know me, you find that odd that I was even stuck in that system. And the reality is I'm shocked that I was in that belief system. I thought I was the one disrupting that belief system only to find I was a part of it in a different way. And, as we all know, fear isn't from God. 2 Timothy says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and sound mind." So if fear isn't from him, why do we let it sink in so much and take so much power in our lives? And that's my hope with some of this podcast and sharing my own stories, that by being vulnerable and confessing and taking with me on this journey, that you'll be encouraged to be vulnerable yourself and confess to a friend and take a step. Because really, I've been cheering for you for so long to take a step and be vulnerable. I feel like it's my turn to be vulnerable a little bit and share a little bit about behind the curtain of what I've even had to go through to get here. Because not only does my voice need to be heard, but your voice needs to be heard too. So if I've been telling everyone to speak, go, and do, and yet I was conforming, which is a whole other podcast series for sure. I think we can all do it together, and I need to learn to speak, go, and do. This is a quote that grabbed me a couple weeks ago, and I immediately texted to a friend, and it was this. It says something like this. It said, "We as Christians have been taught submission almost to a fault, which means everyone is telling you what to do." Let that sink in for a moment. Because when I read that, I was like, oh, an absolute submission is not God's intent. Let me just read that again. We as Christians have been taught submission, which is good, by the way. Submission is good, but almost to a fault, which means everyone is telling you what to do. We are to submit for sure to God, and we are to submit biblically. It tells us in the Bible to one another. Even in marriage, it's a mutual submission, which we don't have time to go to now, but you get the point. And the reason it struck me is because I had found myself in the last few years really submitting to the limitations, maybe of my own fears, but also to the fears of others, and which made me procrastinate my own calling or even things I knew I was supposed to be doing. I was taking my fear of coming out from behind the logo or using my own voice and tying it with submission of what I should be doing, all the oughts and the shoulds, and really procrastinating what God was calling me to do in this season. Two really big things I was putting together: the fear and the unbalance of submission in different areas of my life put me in procrastination. I used to think that I was stalling, that my stalling was noble, and I was just waiting for the perfect time, and that in the meantime, I was helping so many other people. And, those are all noble things. But what I've realized is that procrastination can be really a sneaky form of disobedience. And for me, it was sneaky because I was doing something noble. And often when we're waiting for the right moment, we're really just delaying what God has already told us to do. And I'm naturally bent as a visionary. That's really every personality test, if you will. I come out as being a visionary. I see the big picture. I'm a D on the desk. And so I just go do the big things. And I've seen a lot of things that God has called me to do through CW and in my own personal journey. And yet, um, I, I, I wasn't putting them together and combining them, and they go together. They go perfectly together, and yet I was only pushing one and hiding behind that one area. It's like James 14 says, it puts it plainly. If anyone then knows the good they ought to be doing and doesn't do it, it is sin. And I've spoke on that so many times, and yet the past few years, I had to come to the really hard realization that I wasn't doing the other things like this that I ought to be doing. And one motto that's helped me is that you've heard me say often through Creative Woman as well, is go early and go ugly. And I do that a lot. And it reminds me to take action even when it's messy and imperfect. And even though I'm known for going early and going ugly, I wasn't doing that in my own life. I was doing it within the ministry and helping other people and launching programs and doing all the things, but I wasn't doing it in my own life. And of course, we can never be perfect. And I get that. I'm not saying that I should have done it perfectly and, all the things, but I am saying that the advice and what I was doing in one area of my life, I was not doing it in another. And it became a struggle. It became a real struggle. And that's how I procrastinated and really found myself in a position to where I had to come to the hard realization that even just launching this podcast that has been on my heart for a long time, the more I procrastinated, the more I wasn't walking in obedience. Because the truth is, fear doesn't go away completely, right? It's why we need the Lord. It's why we need to have faith and we need to stand strong in Him. But we can silence it with truth by replacing our fear with the truth of God's word and really walking in that more. And that has had to become louder for me in this season than anything else. And God is not, well, He's given all of us a power, given us power and love and sound mind. And we already have what it takes to move forward. So I guess what I'm trying to say, if this is resonating for you, there is something that's coming up for you. And I want to ask the question, what's been holding you back because of fear? Because if this is resonating for you, that that you've been walking a little bit in disobedience because of fear, even though you're in the middle, even though maybe you are doing other noble things, but there's that other thing that's not really getting done. I want to encourage you to start taking steps towards really walking that out. The next few weeks, I'm going to be doing a series called Pivot into Purpose. And to go along with it, I put together a free download called Pivot into Purpose. And really, it's a 6-day challenge that you can do at any time. And then on the podcast, the next 6 weeks, I'll dive into each principle a little bit more and share a little bit of my journey too along the way. So you can take the 6-day journey immediately, like I said, and download it and keep it on your computer or your bedside table for whenever you're ready. But here's my goal for it all. It's for you not to get stuck the way I've been stuck the last few years, even when you are doing, and we are all doing noble things. Take the challenge to see if there's a place. Maybe you don't know if there's a place. Take it to see if you're stuck. Or you might even find that you are right where you are and just need a little tweaking along the way, like we all do. So I've been vulnerable. Hopefully now it gives you permission to be a little vulnerable too. Well, there it is, friend. That is the first episode. I'm so glad you're here. But before we wrap up, I want to remind you that you're not alone in this journey of purpose. And like I said, to help you take the next bold step, I've created the Pivot into Purpose 6-day challenge as my free gift to you. It's packed with encouragement and practical tools to help you move forward in your God-given calling. You can download it right now through the link in the show notes, so take a look. Also, over at Creative Woman, we're on a mission to empower women by equipping them with the tools they need to embrace their purpose and dreams. And as a part of this mission, we're committed to providing 300 of these books to 300 women in 2025. It's our Dream Launcher Connections video series and workbook. We want to ensure that every woman stepping into a new season of life have the resources they need to grow and thrive. And through our books and programs, we're reaching women who are stepping out of the challenging circumstances into a brighter future. We've already given away books to two amazing ministries, one for single moms and one for women and men that are on the streets. So help us in our mission to give 300 books to 300 women for 2025. And you can be a part of this mission, whether it's a one-time gift or joining us as a monthly donor for just $30. Seriously, your generosity will directly impact the lives and help women step boldly into their God-given calling. So visit the link in the show notes or createawoman.net to give today and make a difference. Also, if you love the Shelby dress I showed today, don't forget to grab the discount code below and go grab one before they're gone, or just shop around on the online boutique. Lots of fun finds so that you can step into your day with style and confidence. Well, all right, friends, this has been fun, and I can't wait to see you next week. So until then, don't do anything unless it's fun. Bye.